Good afternoon, everybody. This is, if you were here before, this is the second go around, but the second time is a charm I'm inventing today. So this is Liz Smith with the St. John's Boosters Business Association in St. John's, Portland, Oregon. And here I am to talk to you today about what's going on in St. John's, and also have an interview live and not in person, but live with the St. John's business owner, which is just such a fun thing. It's called I Am a Small Business. And today I am going to be interviewing Sidney Lake of the St. John's Clay Collective. So just a few community announcements to make. As things open up, events are starting to happen, and this is a very exciting time for everybody, I'm sure. It's been a tough year and not a lot of social interaction, and people are finding a way to do, some kind of opening safely, and it's pretty exciting for everyone. So one of the first things that is coming up, well, I can say just this weekend, tomorrow, is the Farmers Market, which has been going on since May 15th. That's at North Charleston and North Central in St. John's, and it's from 9 to 2. The vendors switch up every week, so if you go to stjohnsopportunity.org/St. John's Farmers Market, there's an interactive map, and it actually shows week by week what vendors are going to be there. So if you're looking for a certain one, you can be sure that they're going to be there, or if you just want to check out what the lineup looks like, you can do that. And then on the same day, tomorrow, Saturday, June 12th, Cathedral Park Performing Arts Collective is doing live music for free. And they have two performers, one that goes on at 11 a.m. and one that goes on at 12:30 p.m. And they're just a block from the Farmers Market on Charleston. And you can go to the Farmers Market, get your stuff, go hear some live music. It just kind of makes it a nice day. And it's such a wonderful thing that they provide this for the community. So hope to see you all out and about tomorrow. And then coming up in July, the Cathedral Park Jazz Festival just announced that they are going to be live this year. So they will be back in Cathedral Park. It might look a little bit different, but it's going to be live music again, outdoors. And that is I believe the third weekend in July, around July 17th. You can check their information on the Jazz Society of Oregon website. They are the organization that runs the Jazz Festival. And then there is the St. John's Art Walk coming up on July 24th. And that's an all-day event throughout the district. If you go to stjohnsartwalk.org, all the information is there to attend that event. And then in August, we have the St. John's Comedy Fest coming to St. John's. And that's a new event. You should start to see posters and flyers around town about that. That's going to be in August. And we will post their information to our social media in the next week or so that you can find out how to buy tickets or, plan an evening of comedy, perhaps. It should be really fun, and it's certainly fun to have all these performing arts and artists in our vibrant community of St. John's. So speaking of which, I think it's a great time to invite Sidney into the room, and we'll do the I Am a Small Business interview, which reminds people when you buy or support a small business or organization, you're supporting a neighbor, a friend, somebody that you can build friendships, build relationships, and that feels very different than going to a big impersonal store or online experience. So we just wanted to, foster that as part of the culture of our community that we hold very near and dear. And since we haven't been able to hang out the way that we quite wanted to in the last year, this gives you a chance to virtually hang out and get to know somebody. So I am going to into the room and we will get started. Here we go. Yay. Hello.
Hi guys. I'm sorry. I had this cool setup in my outside studio and I was working but I guess my internet connection out there is not what it should be. So I apologize for being so late.
It happens. And you know
That
what?
was weird.
The first time I went on and I went live, that recording isn't saved anywhere. It's like it never happened.
Yeah.
Woo, magic. So it's so nice to see people here. Hello out there. And you can say hey to us. We can see you guys in the comments. And I'm really excited to just sit and chat. And, you know, it's so funny. Oftentimes I start out being very conscious that we're like live and on camera. And then as we get into it, I basically forget, and it's just like a personal conversation. So you and I are used to that. But this is not our first rodeo with that.
I'm trying to stay in focus and not let my camera wander.
I know. I'm kind of like, where are we going today? Woo!
Well, I had a tripod. I had everything set up, and now we're doing handheld. So here we go.
Oh, handheld. Well, this will be practice for when you're on your boat one day. And, you know, it's sort of the like rocky, you know, navigating the rocky waves. We can emulate that. So what I usually like to start with is, okay, so when did you open your business, St. John's Clay Collective, and why? Like, what made you do this?
So I started the collective. I was working at the University of Portland. I've worn many hats. I was working at the University of Portland as a housekeeper, and I kind of hit a wall. You know, I'm a creature of habit, and I like getting into routine, and that was meeting that need. But then eventually my creative side kicks in, and I need to move on. And that's what happened. My son was 2 at the time, I believe, so I decided I was going to give a shot at being a stay-at-home mom. Tried that for about 6 months and found that he needed a lot more stimulus. So I got him enrolled in preschool at the Charles Jordan Community Center.
Oh, yeah.
And they were awesome, and he was having his needs met, and I decided that, well, some friends encouraged me to start a community studio, and I kind of felt like because I have a degree, because I've been in that community before, I knew the format. And so it felt really easy to just kind of step into it. And I went down to, I went on the St. John's community neighborhood Facebook page, and I asked who wants a community clay studio in St. John's.
Cool.
And I had huge response. So I went down to Cathedral Park Place, where I had been a production potter previously, and I knew the manager really well. And I said, what do you have for a clay studio? And he showed me the space that I ended up renting right away. It was it felt very ideal. Everything about starting the collective just fell into place, and it all happened really fast, but I knew it was going to work out. And so yeah, I signed the lease in March of 2016. I had my open house in April, and you were there, and very enthusiastically signed up for my first class. And yeah, the rest is history. It just kind of snowballed from there.
Oh my gosh. It was, I remember so vividly when you were opening up. And at that time I was new to St. John's, and the whole notion of going down to like Cathedral Park Place, which is now called Workshop St. John's, but at the time it's called Cathedral Park Place. It sort of looks like, God, it kind of looks like a factory. Well, it was a factory. It was Portland Woolen Mills. That's what it started out as, right? So it was like navigating the space, but all of a sudden all these surprises came up. I'm like, there's a brewery down here, and there's Moonstruck Chocolate over here. And the unique thing about the space that you chose to rent for this second iteration of being in Cathedral Park Place was one that you could enter like from the courtyard. Very different than navigating the maze of, if anybody's ever been in Cathedral Park Place, it is amazing maze of different spaces, but a little bit hard to get around if you don't know where you're going, right?
Yeah, no, people find me, they have trouble finding me generally the first time. And that's, I don't know, I love that space. I love the privacy of the courtyard, yet public access. It's across from my favorite brewery. I mean, it was pretty awesome. What I loved about the space when I first saw it was how much natural light. It was very well lit, and that's important for an art space.
Right.
And beautiful view of the bridge. And so that kind of became my logo. And yeah, I love the space.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's really special. And I'm always curious about how, you know, naming your business or identifying it is a really important thing that people are very thoughtful of these days. So when you named it the St. John's Clay Collective, for example, not studio, not company, not whatever.
Right.
Like what does that word collective mean to you? And what do you want to impart to people when they read and hear that name?
I want them to feel like they're part of a community, that we are a community, but that we're not exclusive.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like a lot of the community experiences I've had in ceramic has been academic and, either through PCC or the university where I went. Um, and I just kind of wanted to experience that outside of academia and just in the public setting, but not have a name that felt private,
Mhm.
too exclusive.
Mhm.
I want people to feel welcome. I want beginners to feel not so, I don't want anyone to feel intimidated. I don't want any sense of like cliques or hierarchy or any of those kind of weird vibes that some art spaces and private studios kind of feel. I wanted it to feel like the collective is important. It's not, we're not, I don't want to feel exclusive. So that's kind of the impetus behind that name.
I love that. And actually, as somebody who was not very practiced in making clay pieces, for me to even sign up to join a class felt really different than why I had never previously done it, because I always envisioned clay studios as studios for artists, people who identify as artists. They're already established. They know everything technical about what they're doing. And I'm like, I'm not that. I don't even know how to get there. So for
I
me to
think
be
it was
able to take
really,
those like beginner classes that you offered, and then, oh my gosh, find the joy
yeah.
in making things, and just the style in which you have the studio and the style in which you teach, I felt to be very inclusive and very like it's for everybody, like just like you said about the name.
Clay people are really good people,
Yeah,
and
I've learned that.
generally really approachable. So I kind of wanted to cut through the pretenses and just get to the fun, just get to the community. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I think that I tell my students it's important to have to come and practice, yes, but to practice in and amongst each other and community and have that dialogue, because more so than any other craft, I feel like it's really hard to do this in isolation. Just
Right.
overcoming the equipment, the water, the mess, like how to deal with all that. The community element is really key. Having that dialogue, like, oh, this is what I'm making, or like, how do I do this, or like, oh,
Right.
what are you doing? That's the awesome, and that's what I wanted to like get to right away.
Yeah. I love that. And actually, I remember one of those inaugural classes. I remember every single person in it. Everyone was different, like had different experience, and I'm still connected to every single person that was in that class. We will
Yeah, I
always
remember
have
that
that.
first class very well.
Yes. And it was like, it was so cool because I don't know that I would have met those other community members in another space. So that was
Mhm.
what was so interesting to me too. Everybody just came together with a natural curiosity and
Mhm.
interest, but like not really knowing where that was going to go. And
Mhm.
and interestingly, like not having an exact plan and seeing what came out of it, like what your hands decided to make that day, was super cool. And
Yeah.
I like things I didn't think I was gonna like, and I loved seeing everyone else like in their process. It was a really special experience.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, it was really good. And so I think it would be interesting to know for people. Clay and ceramics was something that you studied formally. Is that right?
Yeah, I went to school for a social work degree. I wanted to focus in the deaf community, and so I learned sign language, and I focused on that for almost 3 years. But then and then I just kind of hit a wall where I realized that I was intimidated by all the bureaucracy of it, and I just wanted to get to the people end of it. So I I needed to have a degree. I didn't feel like I wanted to just walk away from school with nothing, so I changed to general art major, wanted to focus on sculpture and wanted to focus on clay. And I was the head of the department encouraged me to become a full-time ceramics art major because there is such a dearth of knowledge that you really have to master. if you want to work in that material and have success with it. So it was yeah, I'm very glad I did. I went to Rochester Institute of Technology for social work and wound up with a degree in fine art ceramics, and it happened to be a very good school. So I was very lucky.
Oh, that is lucky that the two things you were interested in, they had, support for you in both of those, because that's not often the case. And when you have to switch schools, like in the middle of your time there, it can be so
Yeah.
disruptive, or you lose credits, or, all that. So that's really great that that worked out, and that
Yeah.
you're able to bring that to us. But that also brings to mind something that a lot of people don't know about you, is that you know American Sign, and that what I think is interesting about that is it's a different and more visual way of communicating. And I kind of think that you bring that to your teaching style, even though you're not teaching in sign, you are a very visual kind of teacher, right?
Right. I know how my brain works.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't get to sign and access that community in the space as much as I had hoped, but we are an inclusive space, and I don't want anyone to feel like they couldn't come and make it work, you know. So
Yeah.
no communication barriers. Come on.
I was actually thinking, if there's somebody out there who is hearing impaired, or they know somebody that is, you could potentially, I mean, I'm not trying to create work for you, but teach a class to deaf folks, because you
I
can see.
have. I've done private,
Have you?
like friends of mine would come in and we would do a lesson. It's possible. It's one of those things where you just put the word out and see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's just like, that's what I love about doing these interviews, is you learn, like, the thing that might not be at the forefront of what the mission of the business is, but it's just something extra that you bring because you're you.
Uh-huh.
And then we started at the beginning, and how you started it, and your background and all of that. So how has
Liz,
the
can you turn up your volume? I feel like I'm having a hard time hearing all of a sudden.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, hold on.
I got a phone call that I declined, and then all of a sudden, since then, it's like I can hear.
I noticed that too on my end with you, that I couldn't hear you either. So I'm trying to turn up my
Okay,
volume here. Is it
I'm a
better?
potter. I'm very hands-on. Technology is not my strong suit. You guys get the
Yeah.
struggle is real.
Is it any better now? I turned it
Nope.
up.
Brian, any ideas? Why my
Let's see. That's
yeah.
as far as it goes.
Brian is my boyfriend, and he works in IT, and he says sometimes when you get a phone call, the volume can go awry.
Okay.
Oh, I will try.
Well, let's see if it writes itself. Well, you're going to be talking next. So what I wanted to ask you, since that day you opened to now, how has the collective evolved?
Um, I've been thinking about this question, and I wouldn't say that we've necessarily changed. Our format is still very much the same. I've stayed true to my mission, and we have the most open studio access of any studio in the city. We still have members that have lease space, and we still teach classes. But I think what's changed the most is as a result of the pandemic. We've decreased our size, and so we're not as spread out as we used to be. I've had to lower the numbers of people in the studio, but we found ways to accommodate. So instead of coming to the studio and hoping that there's a wheel available, and generally there is, this time around you can actually reserve your wheel, so you can plan ahead and know what's going to be available. As far as what's coming out of the kiln, I post pictures on Instagram and Facebook every week of what's come out. So I feel like we're a lot more accommodating, and we're trying to be more accommodating and responsive to people, and as transparent as possible. So yeah, I think that's the biggest change. We've increased our open studio time, almost tripled it. It's amazing
Yeah.
how we're making it work. The community is awesome. There's just a lot of trust, and it tends to function really well because the people that are there are also, like, they take pride in the space too, and that helps foster a good community.
I
And
like to.
I'm able to like kind of back away and watch it grow and watch it evolve and not have to be so on it, which is nice for myself because now I can have a little bit more time to be flexible with like my own work and my time with my son. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I was wondering if you would attribute that to the fact that you set the expectations early on with very clear rules and procedures that everyone must follow for the studio, and then there were additional rules and procedures that had to do strictly with COVID, but they're all posted on the walls, so
Right.
everyone's clear. And then you count on the community to honor system follow those rules, right?
Right. Well, I have video cameras in the space, so I'm able to monitor the space. And we do try to keep eyes on as much as possible. I used to have texts and signs everywhere. I do a weekly or do a monthly newsletter. Um, we post on Facebook, but I think that's another thing that's evolved. Rather than just throwing text at people and making them read, and me have to tell them again and again, I found like I was repeating a lot of the same information. I've become really comfortable with making videos of myself. So anything having to do with the studio, I've made a video of, and people can go to a frequently asked questions page and see a video, and then they're not reading it. And I find that when you're having the dialogue and you're hearing my inflection, it makes more of an impact than having to read it because people will glance over things and not absorb it all. So that's something I'm happy to have done and evolved into, is getting more comfortable with videos and video editing.
Yeah, I remember taking, even not, though it wasn't a recorded video, I remember taking one of your first pandemic classes where you created little clay kits that people could buy, pick up outside, and, without any contact, take it
Yeah,
home, and then you taught it on Facebook Live. And that was so cool because we felt like we were making together, even though
yeah,
we couldn't be together. And
yeah,
you're so creative and just finding a way for people to still have community even when there's challenges. And I think that now that we're opening up a little bit more again, I think that just that feeling just keeps going, right?
yeah. I knew when the pandemic closed me, I felt like not necessarily a sense of responsibility, but like I didn't want people to lose this connection. I didn't want them to feel like I was gone, like we were gone, like. And I knew that for myself, in the time of stress and anxiety and separation, I wanted to have that that creative expression and be able to keep making, and that was going to be my therapy and help me get through. So I come hell or high water, I was going to try to find a way to stay open and stay active and keep that contact. So I never like closed my doors and said members only, or, I understand if some studios did that, but I took out, I had 10 wheels in the space and I took them down to 4.
Yeah.
And I gave everybody lots of space. And we were starting to clean with bleach, and everything was, you know, online and communicating via emails and text. Like there was no direct contact, but we were in contact. So figured out a way to stay open. It was
Yeah.
important.
I thought, and I know that the studio was like a sanctuary for so many people to relieve anxiety or just do something with their hands. Or it's very meditative. I
Yeah.
find, making things. But also, I thought the other cool thing that you did was you rented out wheels so that people could do it if they didn't feel comfortable being in a studio at all. And some people didn't or have more health concerns. They could rent a wheel from you for a certain amount of
Yeah.
time, take it home, and then bring it back.
Yeah, we still are renting wheels to this day. People are still taking the wheels home. They get it, you pay by the month and you get a bag of play with that wheel. We continue to teach for PCC Community Ed this whole last year. We did it online. My business partner, Berdine Jordan, was the online instructor for the hand building class through PCC. And that class has been fabulous and it was extremely popular. So we found a way to do a lot of online work, and people would drop off stuff and I'd fire it, and we've made it work, and we're constantly tweaking it, and we're still tweaking things. But like I said, I think the root of the business plan is still there, and the intent is still there. I haven't had to make too big of changes.
That's great. And I think that it'll be interesting for people, and maybe you can explain how people can experience the studio. Like, what's the difference between a member, what can they do, or somebody that gets studio time, or somebody that just takes a class. Like, I think those are three ways you can experience. Can you sort of explain the difference between those?
Yeah. Like you said, there's three ways to get involved. You can be a student where for the time that you are a student, you will have access to Open Studio. So we're not a very class-centric place. We have two classes. One is a wheel sampler. That's an hour and a half wheel-intensive class. It's kind of to give you an idea of what it takes to throw on the wheel, maybe have some success at it, and figure out how far down the rabbit hole you want to go from there. And then the next class is a 4-week series where you learn all the basics, and you're able to fire and keep 8 of your pieces. And the other way, the most popular way to get involved, is a punch card access to Open Studio, and we have a family punch card that's half off for the second person, and you both come and work off the same punch. Again, I don't feel like you should have to be part of a class or part of an institution to experience a sense of community in clay and access to equipment. So punch card is kind of our Open Studio, and punch card is kind of our bread and butter. That's what I want to mostly be known for, is just giving people access to be able to work and practice without the pressure of timelines for class or anything like that. But if you do want to take it up a notch and have a little bit more, no limitations to Open Studio, then you would become a member. And the members, we have 2 studio spaces. One is used for a classroom, used for Open Studio times and teaching. The other one holds my kiln, and it also holds the member space, and they have a key and 24/7 access. They lease a portion of shelving from me, and they have ability to come and work around the clock if they wanted to. And that has its limitations too. When you get to a point where you need more space, then we're ready to like shoo you out of the nest and go find your own, more private studio. Because there's definitely, in the growth of, in the development of this craft, community is really important. You need that foundation, you need that support. And then you'll eventually get to your point in your making where you're like, okay, leave me alone. I want to focus. And that's when you find your own studio space. But sometimes it takes a year or a couple years to get to that point. So they're kind of different tiers, like the student, the punch card, the member.
Right.
And, yep.
I really like the idea that, the members have access to the studio when they want, because they're at that level where they know when they want to work. They know when the creative bug hits them. It might be 11 p.m. for some people. It might be 6 a.m. for some people. You're not limiting them to funnel their creativity into certain hours if they choose to go that route. And I think for the creative process, for somebody at that level, that's a really amazing thing to offer. And a lot of times people don't want to do a home studio because it's messy. It is messy work. I remember coming home covered in God knows what, slurry and stuff. And the nice thing about the studios is just set up so that it's easy to clean, you can share tools, like all that kind of stuff. And it has the shelf space there, which, so many people don't have shelf space. Can you talk a little bit about how firing works? Because that's a unique process there too.
Yeah, we do firing also for public, so you don't have to be a punch card member or a student necessarily to fire with me. So how I handle the firing is a color-coded system. So depending on who you are, if you're a student, a member, punch card or drop off, or we have a new color now for our reduction kiln. If you want to do a reduction fire in our gas kiln, each of those is a different color. Even the PCC students have their own color fire slip. Wow. And what that indicates to me is who I have to invoice for the fire and who has a different cost. So like members have a discount on how much per square inch versus punch card or drop off, or the reduction fire has a different cost. And it also informs me as who has priority in the kiln, like whose work needs to get in because they're on a timeline. So if you're a Friday night student or a Saturday morning student and you're only in the studio for that month, I want to make sure that you get your work on time and it's not several weeks down the road. And I have to say, I think we do a really good job of when people bring me their work, we do a pretty good job of getting it in the kiln and getting it out in 1 week. So you're not waiting 2 or 3 weeks. There are exceptions, depending on the size, depending on the demand. Sometimes we have a bottleneck where all the students are due all at the same time, or someone has a special commission and they want to rent the whole kiln because they have a body of work. There's always exceptions, but the color-coded system lets me know who's on a time crunch and who's not.
And I think that if I remember correctly, the way that somebody would determine what it's going to cost them to fire their piece is they have to measure it.
Yeah,
right?
We have a measuring station that has a grid that can measure the X, Y, and Z axis. So you just put your work in the corner. You can count the squares, fill out the fire slip. We need your name. We need your email. We need your phone number. In case something happens, I have to be able to contact you. So once I have all that information, it becomes easier.
Yeah. And again, you're sort of relying on the community to follow the procedure and trusting that they're going to do it right and that they're going to record it. So again, you're not tying yourself to having to measure and pieces for people. It's on
right. No, time. I'm not hovering over you.
Right.
And I do trust that you're going to do it to the best of your ability. And sometimes I'll have to contact you and say, oh, I'm sorry, you got your math wrong or whatever. Stuff happens, but we have a lot of flexibility and the system seems to work pretty good so far.
That's great. Well, I wanted to get to the point where we can like give some practical information to people. So for example, like your address, the different like maybe social platforms or website that you have. And then, and if you want to talk about like anything new that's coming up that you want people to know about, that now would be the time.
Okay. What's new? Well, we're starting to increase our capacity. We are teaching 6 seats instead of 4 right now. So it's happening slowly. We're still requiring masks in the space. You're still going to want to book your time and Plan Hero. Newest thing coming down the pipe, like I said, we have a new firing slip for getting into the kiln yard. If you want to fire a cup in the reduction kiln, then you can measure for just that cup. Before we were selling it by the foot. That's kind of a fledgling portion of the business that I'm trying to reach those professional potters already out there in the community that are working in isolation and just want access to gas firing. And I'm starting to open that up to anybody now instead of being too exclusive. Trying to think.
I think
I mean, just watch for things coming as the things become more relaxed. We'll increase our capacity. Maybe by fall we'll be into a new studio space to accommodate more people. That would be nice.
I love that. And I was going to say that I think last year, God, I think it's 2 years ago now, you did some really experimental like Raku firing in the courtyard. And that was so interesting for people who were, there's a lot of people very interested in that because it's very specialized.
Raku is a very summer-based thing because you need to have good weather for that. We don't have anything currently scheduled, but we do have the means for sure. And I know Georgie's Ceramics is probably still going to do Raku this summer. That's the thing. I am not going to be exclusive. I am not going to only tote what the collective can do. Right. I like to think of the ceramics community as all encompassing. If you want to hear about what Morning Ceramics is doing, what Radius is up to, what the Mudroom is doing, like I want to make it easy for you. There are definitely some things that I can do well, and then there are some things where like I'm limited, and I will recommend another studio to you. I would tell all of my students, if I said something and it didn't click and you're just still struggling and not quite getting it, many instructors will teach it completely different, and you should go to all of those studios and take from as many instructors as possible. But when you just want a place to focus, to practice, and have good community, that's where I hope you'd remember the collective.
I love that. And so what is your address? And then what's the best way to people to sort of keep up on what you're doing?
So the best way to keep up is follow us on Facebook. We do have a monthly newsletter that has kind of all the crucial information for that month. Sign up for the newsletter. I am in St. John's Workshop at 6635 North Baltimore. So go down the steep hill that everyone wants to sled on when the snow happens. Go down. I am across from Occidental Brewing in the courtyard. So yeah, come down, have a beer, chill, and then walk on over and see what the collective's all about. We're going to be participating in the art walk in July on the 24th. I plan to be in that courtyard with my members. My members will be selling work of their own, and I will be doing demos and talking about clay.
Oh, so fun. I'm so excited for that. And I think your website, if I always forget, but I think it is stjohnsclay.com, is it?
Yeah, stjohnsclay.com.
So you can look and see, like, how to be a member and
yes, everything about how to get involved in the studio, from how to clean up to how to glaze. I have a video for it in the frequently asked questions page. All of our times for Open Studio are posted, and you can find anything, tools, clay, in the clay store. Purchase a punch card there, and all of our current classes are posted and available. I'm very accessible. Shoot me a text at the number that's on the website if you have any more questions.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sidney.
Thank you.
I consider myself like an honorary member, and I learned so much.
Always.
Just from talking to you and, really intentionally just asking you these questions about the studio and the collective, and oh my gosh, the community part of it is probably my favorite part of all of it. So we so appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. You're amazing. I'm so glad you decided to stop by my open house that one day back in April of 2016. It's been great ever since.
It sure has. That's what I made friends out of that whole experience, and that is enriching my life in so many ways. So thank you for this. I am going to save the recording on the boosters page, and now we're putting it on our YouTube. It takes a little while to load them all up, so when that's ready, I can share that YouTube with you. And
awesome.
You can watch yourself over and over as many times as you want.
No, I'm so glad we finally made this happen. Sorry about all the technical hiccups.
You know what? We learn from all of that.
Yes.
And we learn that we can do it, and we can just pat ourselves on the back because we did it.
You're awesome, Liz.
You're awesome. All right. I'll talk to you soon, Sid.
Bye, folks.
Bye.